Everyone.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hai Ananda.
Hi, Ananda.
Yeah, how are you?
How about you? Long time.
Yeah, not too bad, ma'am. Hanging in there.
Alhamdulillah, you're very happy to know your progress there. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, nearly there, ma'am. Nearly there.
Hello, Ananda. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome to Hasanuddin University. Hasanuddin University is one of the best universities in Indonesia. Supported by modern facilities and information technology infrastructures. Facility of e-library is provided with various online international journals and e-books. There is also a language training center that helps students to learn foreign languages. Hasanuddin University is a place where students can learn cultural diversity and build their sense of tolerance.
Dengan hadirnya mereka di sini, mereka bisa belajar tentang budaya kita. Begitu pula sebaliknya, kita bisa mengenal budaya
of facilities for sports, arts, and cultural activities.
Di Unhas, kita tidak hanya bisa berprestasi dalam mata pelajaran, namun kita juga bisa berprestasi dalam cabang olahraga renang seperti hobi saya ini.
Dengan ini dinyatakan dibuka dan terbuka logomu. Penuntut umum, hadirkan terdakwa.
Kalau di Fakultas Hukum, kita dituntut untuk bisa peka terhadap keadaan yang ada di sekitar kita, baik itu masalah kecil maupun dalam keseharian. Karakter ini akan sangat berguna dan bermanfaat ketika kita lulus nantinya.
Praktek, sehingga nantinya kita nggak canggung lagi kalau langsung kerja di rumah sakit. Unhas pun punya rumah sakit sendiri loh, gak sedikit alumni yang udah lulus kerja di sana.
Hasanuddin University Hospital is one of the best hospital in the region. Not a few alumni work there. Established dental and oral hospital. Hasanuddin University Dental and Oral Hospital as a place for students of Faculty of Dentistry to practice their clinical skills. Yusuf Kala Center of Technology is a place for students of Faculty of Engineering to improve their skill by utilizing the advanced laboratory equipments.
Sekarang, yang ingin masuk kuliah di teknik tidak usah khawatir untuk jauh-jauh kuliah di luar. Karena dengan fasilitas yang sebaik ini, Fakultas Teknik Unhas sudah dapat bersaing dengan fakultas teknik manapun di Indonesia.
Hasanuddin University Teaching Industry is a center of excellence for downstreaming and commercialization of innovation that produced by academicians. From here, we support entrepreneurship capacity of students and academicians. One product from teaching industry is chocolate that has been delivered in the market. Hasanuddin University manages several centers of excellences to perform the university contribution for country and world development program. Maiwa Breeding Center is one of Hasanuddin University's Center of Excellences. It is a center for fattening, breeding, and also producing good quality of cow straw. Faculty of Veterinary Unit Business processes the beef from Maiwa Breeding Center to be various food products such as meatball and nuggets. Hasanuddin University affirmed its commitment as a university in response to various humanitarian challenges and natural disaster experienced in Indonesia around the world. Hasanuddin University community is sincere for students and disaster victims.
Hasanuddin University will continually improving its quality for student learning, producing innovation, and serving the community. The best future for the people, country, and the world should be accomplished since now.
Hasanuddin University is the best resources for developing excellent future leaders that are competitive and character-based. With Hasanuddin University, your goal can be achieved successfully.
Welcome to Faculty of Cultural Sciences of Hasanuddin University. Faculty of Cultural Sciences is the fifth oldest faculty in Hasanuddin University, which focuses on preserving cultural studies. Our faculty aims to become the center of the study and the development culture based on the Indonesian maritime continent.
Faculty of Cultural Sciences Hasanuddin University was established in 1960 with the name of the Faculty of Literature and Philosophy. All departments and study programs at the Faculty of Cultural Sciences Hasanuddin University have been accredited by National Accreditation Board of Higher Education. For undergraduate programs, Indonesian, English, French, and History departments are accredited B, along with Bugis Studies department. In addition, West Asian, Archaeology, and Japan departments have successfully accredited A, while Mandarin and Chinese culture is still in the accreditation process. As for linguistics and Indonesian master programs, Both are accredited by the National Accreditation Board of Higher Education. English Language Studies, on the other hand, received A, while archaeology is still in the accreditation process. Lastly, the doctoral program in linguistics received B accreditation. Regarding the administration, the faculty creates an integrated management among the departments by using technology-based information system and also creates the best academic services which is internationally standardized. Each year, the Faculty of Cultural Sciences sends students abroad to take part in several programs. The development of student organizations is carried out to provide assistance, facility support, and financial support. The Faculty of Cultural Sciences also provides student welfare services, such as providing scholarships from both the government and the private sector.
Recording in progress.
Studying in English department Hasanuddin University is one of steps to achieve my goals. In this department, all lecturers do not only teach us the academic lesson materials, but also always motivate the students to have more achievements from both on and off the campus. Here in this department is one of the good things that happened to me. I met a lot of new amazing people here, especially the lecturers from different backgrounds, expertises, and experiences of life, and they are very inspiring, open-minded, and friendly.
Department, I have more opportunities to develop soft and hard skills through organizations and student activities. There is also student volunteer of Unhas called SVU. In SVU, the students will volunteer as LO, MC, photographer, and newswriter for many Unhas events, international and national events.
Complete facilities. We also have a very friendly learning environment, and we also have very updated curriculums.
This department has brought a lot of significant milestones for my life, including the way I write, the way I think. The lectures here must inspire me the most to write a lot of things outside of the university itself.
Yeah, good morning everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's very nice to see you all today, this morning, with our event, the national seminar conducted by English Literature Study Program of Hasanuddin University. Okay, I can see that there are now 119 participants in the Zoom room. And also, I can see one from there is one participant from, I think from Kendari, ya. Ibu Yuliana Sain, how are you?
Hello, Memila.
Okay, welcome, Yuliana. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. And I can see that Ananda, one of our speakers, is already here with us. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Ananda Muhammad is also an alumnus from English Literature Study Program, and we are very proud of her. She is now a PhD candidate student in Iowa University of USA. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
And for our today's event, we have some information for participants, for seminar participants. Host or co-host, can you please share the slide for information for seminar participants? Yeah. Okay, so can everyone please remain using the format name _institution, and also to use the virtual background that has been provided by the committee. I think co-host or host can also upload the virtual background in the chat box. So maybe some of participants has not got the virtual background yet. And yes, as long as possible, can you please activate your video so we can see your beautiful and handsome face. And also the host will mute all participants' audio during the presentation sessions. However, when you have questions during the discussion or TA session, your audio will be activated by the host or co-host. If you want to ask questions, you can type in the chat box. Yeah, that's the first way. Or maybe if you want to ask questions directly during the discussion or TA session, please use the raise hand feature of the Zoom. The moderator will determine which questions to be answered. Participants should also fill attendance list in the link that will be provided by the committee later on in the chat box. I think that will be provided after the presentation sessions. And we would like to ask for your permission because the seminar will be recorded by the committee. And also, please be kindly informed that there will be live streaming in YouTube. Okay, again, I would like to thank everyone for joining us. This very good opportunity for us. Okay, our speaker, another speaker is also here with us. Good morning, Pak Gumawang Jati.
Good morning, Ibu Carmela.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak.
Tidak kedengar suaranya, Bu Carmela.
We are going to start at 9 a.m. So my clock shows 8:55. So 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes, and then we are going to start our seminar. Yeah. The moderator is also here already, Ibu Ria. Good morning, Bu Ria. Yeah. Okay, again, I would like to remind everyone to rename using the format name underscore institution. Okay, now we have already 128 participants. Okay, there are actually more than 200 registered in our system. I hope that there will be more participants coming later on. Maybe they are still, yeah, they are still on the way. Okay. Yeah, I hope that the weather is good. Okay, there is one participant calling saying that he cannot join yet. So maybe host or co-host, can you please check the waiting room? Maybe some participants are already in the waiting room waiting for confirmation. Okay. Yeah, if you cannot activate your video, then it's okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, 3 more minutes and we are going to start. Yeah, there are also from IAIN Bone, yeah, Ibu Samsinar, yeah, Ibu Samsinar, and also from UIN Alauddin Makassar, Ibu Eka Audia, welcome. Very good, very nice to see everyone here after very long time not to see everyone. Now we can meet again, even though it's still in virtual room. Hopefully next year we can have another event offline, yeah, offline, so we can meet each other. Okay, this event is conducted by Network, which is an organization for English educators and practitioners, especially in the eastern part of Indonesia. And it was initiated by Ibu Eti Bazergan. Maybe some of you know her already. Yeah, the late Ibu Eti Bazergan. She was she initiated the organization, and actually we already had several seminars previously, and today's seminar is the 8th seminar, yeah, the 8th seminar for conducted by Network. Now Network is under English Literature Study Program, Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Universitas Hasanuddin. Hopefully, hopefully there will be some more programs from Network, and so please, yeah, please wait for some updating news later, maybe through your email if you don't mind. Yeah, we will send some more information about our programs later on. Okay, 1 more minute, and is Ibu Inaya here already? Yes, Ibu Andi Inaya Suraya will be our Master of Ceremony for today, and she has joined us. And Ibu Moderator is also here already, Ibu Ria. Ibu Nasmila, our beloved Head of English Literature Study Program. Hi Ibu, good morning. Yeah, Ibu Nasmila is here.
Good morning, yeah.
Okay, so it seems that everyone is here. What about from faculty, Ibu Sareni?
Yeah, he is ready, waiting in his office. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, so since that we are all ready and it's already 9 o'clock, so we are going to start our seminar. So please enjoy the seminar, and I would like to give the floor to our Master of Ceremony for today, Ibu Andi Inaya Soraya. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Carmila. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we cordially invite you because in a few minutes, the ceremony will proceed in no time. Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
Respectable the Dean of Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Vice Dean for Academic Research and Innovation Affairs, Universitas Hasanuddin, Dr. Mardi Adi Amin M. Hum, Honorable the Head of English Literature Study Program, Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Universitas Hasanuddin, Dr. Anda Nasmila M. Hum, PhD, Honorable speakers for today, Ibu Cecilia Halimi, PhD, Lecturer of Applied Linguistics, Faculty of Humanities, Universitas Indonesia. The second, Dr. Gumawang Jati, MA, Lecturer of Institut Teknologi Bandung, also as a Chairman of Indonesia Technology Enhanced Language Learning. And the third, Ananda Muhammad, SS, M. Faisal, alumni from ILSP FIB Unhas, and PhD student of Applied Linguistics and Technology, Iowa State University. And also, the honorable network members and all the participants today. First of all, let's praise our God, Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, the creator and sustainer of universe. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Inaya Soraya, and it's an awesome and precious change for me to be your master ceremony in this morning, in Friday, 17 December 2021. In our big event, the 8th Network National Seminar Assessment in Hybrid Learning, How to Measure English Language Proficiency. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, before we start our agenda for today, let's sing Indonesia Raya. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda are speeches. The first is welcoming speech from the head of committee, Ibu Siti Sahraini SSMA. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Inaya. Ladies and gentlemen, before I perform my report, the report from network, I would like to share our memory about the late Ibu Eti Bazargan. Host.
Masih termute, mem.
The Honorable Dean of Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Universitas Hasanuddin, the Head of English Department, Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Universitas Hasanuddin, the distinguished speakers, Ibu Cecilia Halimi, PhD, Bapak Dr. Gumawang Jati, MA, and Miss Ananda Muhammad, SS, MA, TESOL, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning. First of all, we thank to the Almighty God who has given us healthiness and golden opportunity to attend this virtual seminar today. Representing the network board and committee, we would like to welcome all of the inspiring speakers and participants who are attending the 8th Network National Seminar today on Friday, 17th of December 2021, under the theme of Assessment in Hybrid Learning, How to Measure English Language Proficiency. Ladies and gentlemen, as has mentioned by Ibu Carmila previously, Network was initiated by the late Ibu Dr. Eti Bazargan, MAD, PhD, and it was established in 2007, aimed to contribute significant role in the development of human resources, particularly the English practitioners in the Eastern Indonesia. From 2007 until 2012, there were 7 network seminars conducted in Unhas, highlighted current issues in the English language teaching, attended by more than 200 participants from many places, including Kalimantan, Java, and Bali. Network has invited so many excellent speakers, including Mr. Hywell Coleman from British Council, Pak Eran Williams from Relo US Embassy, and Ibu Ice Khadijah. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, Network is reborn, ready to face the challenges and offer solutions to the English language teaching field. All of us in English department takes this network as a legacy from our beloved seniors, teacher and best friend, Ibu Eti Bazargan. And we are holding our commitment to keep her dream alive, to empower the English practitioner in Eastern Indonesia, so we can become great teachers who inspire our students, the future leaders of this country, to become the best person they can be with their English. Ladies and gentlemen, we are confident that all of us will learn many interesting, useful, and valuable insights from the 3 speakers today. To Ibu Cecilia Halimi, Pak Gumawang Jati, and Miss Ananda Muhammad, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to this Network National Seminars. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you very much for being with us today. Let's enjoy the 8th Network National Seminar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I return it to the Master of Ceremony. Silahkan, please, Ibu Inaya.
Microphone. Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Siti Sahraini, SSMA. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the second speech will be delivered by the Head of English Literature Study Program, Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Universitas Hasanuddin, Dr. Anda Nasmila M. Hum, PhD. You may take the floor.
Thank you very much indeed. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May this very day brings lots of joy and happiness to all of us. First of all, allow me to extend my gratitude to the 3 remarkable speakers of our seminar, Bapak Gumawang Jati, Ibu Cecilia Halimi, and Ananda Muhammad. Your contribution to this event will long be remembered, as it is enriching the participants' insight on English education, more particularly on how to measure the students' performance and achievement in a hybrid learning system. Special thanks also goes to the Dean of the Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Hasanuddin University, and all the Vice Deans who have given full support in making this program happen. Also, of course, a great thankfulness is extended to all the participants for being here with us. There's nothing to be proud of without your presence. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 8th Network National Seminar 2021, a great moment where everyone gathers to widen their horizon of the most updated issues on assessment, on hybrid learning, how to measure English language proficiency. We are all aware that the rapid changes in educational system worldwide have brought us to a feels like a big leap for both students and teachers. We are urged to adjust our teaching delivery format from face-to-face to online learning. A truly great challenge for those who haven't prepared for this changing landscape of education. It is true that distance learning has been applied by several advanced universities around the globe since several decades back. However, this pandemic era has forced almost all levels of society, especially those dealing with education, to be able to cope with these challenges. It is unlikely to actually measure the impact of this situation on our life, but we are required to find the best way we can to help educational practitioners perform well in their tasks and obligations as teachers. We are surely grateful for having this Teachers Network National Seminar conducted today. As an educator, I'm hoping that this event will broaden everyone's knowledge of what we need to do in assessing the performance of our students in an attempt to have better quality learning and better quality human resources. Last but not least, I thank the committee who has devoted their precious time to make this seminar happen. Happy seminar, everyone. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anda Nasmila M. PhD. Ladies and gentlemen, now this is the high time for us to listen to the speech from the Dean of Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Vice Dean for Academic, Research, and Innovation Affairs, Universitas Hasanuddin, Dr. Mardi Adi Amin M. Hum. Time is yours.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable guest speaker today seminar, Mrs. Cecilia Halmi PhD, Dr. Gurnawan Zati ME, and Mrs. Ananda Muhammad MA. The head of Secretary of English Literature Study Program, Lecturer of English Literature Study Program, and participant of seminar. First of all praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for the blessing to all of us so that we can all gather in this virtual event to attend the seminar conducted by English Literature Study Program, Faculty of Cultural Science, Universitas Hasanuddin. Ladies and gentlemen, the seminar of the 8th event conducted by Network as a professional organization initiated by late Mrs. Eti Bazargan. Her idea show her care and great concern of English teaching. Alhamdulillah, Mrs. Bazargan idea is now continue by lecture of English literature study program. I hope that this program can bring much benefit to English education and practitioner, especially in the southern part of Indonesia, and bring much reward to the late Mrs. Etni Bazargan, PhD. The topic of the seminar, assessment in hybrid learning, how to measure English language proficiency. I think it's very important to us, even for we as a lecturer for French department in Hasanuddin University, we face on the same problem, is how to improve, how to increase the for capacity for the student in new era. For instance, the skill to writing in French, écrire, skill to reading, lire in French, skill to hearing, entendre, and skill to parler, a skill to speaking. Okay? It is all the participants, we hope is very relevant, important to the process of education. It's new challenging for us to look for the new educational method, the educational method in new era. Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to meet the orphan this seminar by reciting Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I open the 8th Network National Seminar. I wish everyone is productive day and enjoy the seminar. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What an enlightening speech. Thank you very much, Dr. Mardi Adi Amin MPhil. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is reciting prayer. So we cordially invite Dr. Ayub Khan, MSc. Time is yours.
Recording in progress.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wa kafa billahi syahida. Wassalatu wassalam ala sayyidina Muhammad al-Mustafa. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Allahumma rabbana zidna ilman nafi'an li anfusina wa li jami'atina wa li mujtami'ina wa li biladina. O our God, increase our useful knowledge which will be beneficial to ourselves, to our universities, to our societies, and to our country. Allahumma rusukna fahman sahihan ayyaj'alana ala ma'rifati rabbina wa ma'rifati anfusina wa dinina wa dunyana. O our God, bestow us the true understanding of psych to know our to know the purpose min ilmin la nanfa'u ayal kibr wa nansa li anfusina wa li jami'atina wa li mujtamina wa li biladina. O our God, protect us from useless knowledge or useless insight, and keep us from wrong understanding or wrong insight that will be make us arrogant and forget ourselves, forget our universities, and forget our societies, and forget our country. Allahumma la nansa an nada'a li ustazatina almarhum Dr. Eti Basargan al-mubtadi'ah al-muassisa fi hazihi nadwatil ilmiyah. Allahumma ghfir laha warhamha, Allahumma ghfir laha warhamha, Allahumma ghfir laha warhamha, innaka antal ghafurur rahim. O our God, we doesn't forget to pray our beloved teacher, the late Dr. Eti Basargan, who was the founder of this scientific seminar organization. O our God, forgive of all her sins and give her mercy. Indeed, you are the most forgiver and the most merciful. Subhanallahi rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamu al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Ayub Khan, MSc. Ladies and gentlemen, and now this is the time to photo session. Please turn your camera on and I will count. Okay? So I will count in 1, 2, 3. Okay, next. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
There are 7 slides, Kak.
Okay, so next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the last slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we will start our session on the 8th Network National Seminar by Team Assessment in Hybrid Learning, How to Measure English Language Proficiency. Without any further ado, we would like to welcome all the presenters and Dr. Randa Ria Jubhari, MA, PhD as moderator. Time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Inaya. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so happy to have our 3 distinguished speakers, Ibu Sisil, Pak Jati, and Ananda with us this morning. After their presentation from the 3 speakers, there will be question and answer session. Before we listen to their presentations, let me remind you that you can type your questions in the chat box, mentioning your name, your institution, and to whom your question is for. You can also click raise hand for your direct questions to speakers during PA session. Now, allow me to introduce our 3 speakers. The first speaker, Ibu Cecilia Setiawati Halimi, PhD. She will share paper on how to use dynamic assessment in hybrid learning. Ibu Sisil is a senior lecturer in the Department of Linguistics, Faculty of Humanities, Universitas Indonesia. She earned her BA in Linguistics from Universitas Indonesia, her master degree in ELT from the University of Warwick, UK, and her PhD in ELT from Lathrop University, Australia. Her field of interests includes language assessment, English for specific purpose, English language teaching and teacher education, and she has facilitated various teacher training workshops on ELT topics. The second speaker, Dr. Gumawang Jati, will talk about online assessment for learning. He is an English senior lecturer at the Faculty of Arts and Design, Institut Teknologi Bandung. He finished his undergraduate from IKIP Sanata Dharma in 1987 and his master from University of Warwick in 1989, specializing in core. He joined a short course on management in ELT at the University of Leeds in 1992, and he obtained his doctorate degree from Indonesia Education University in 2010, specializing in education and ICT. He teaches critical reading and academic writing at ITB. He has conducted workshops and actively participated in many seminars in the area of ICT and education. He is also a British Council Indonesia consultant for Virtual Teacher Support Network since 2011 for school leadership and for other projects. He is currently the president of Indonesia Technology Enhanced Language Learning. The third presenter, dear Ananda Muhammad, will share a paper on challenges and outcomes of implementing a hybrid assessment of spoken communication for an English placement test at a US university. Right now, Ananda is a PhD student in the Applied Linguistics and Technology program at Iowa State University. She earned her undergrad in English Language and Literature from Universitas Hasanuddin and her master degree in TESOL and Applied Linguistics from Iowa State University. Her research interests are in computer-assisted language learning and language assessment, specifically in the area of second language pragmatics. Without further ado, let me invite Dr. Cecilia Halimi to share ideas on the use of dynamic assessment in hybrid learning. The floor is yours, Dr. Cecilia.
I haven't seen Ibu Sisil on the meetings though. I'm not sure that Ibu Sisil is here.
Since Ibu Cecilia is not yet here with us, I would like to invite Dr. Gumawang Jati to present his paper. And as I have informed you that Dr. Gumawang Jati will talk about online assessment for learning. The floor is yours, Dr. Gumawang Jati.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Ria. Thank you very much for inviting me into a network. It's a great honor for me. Let me share my screen. Can the committee give me access to share my own screen? Just put me as a co-host.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, morning everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Very good morning. Selamat pagi. I'm going to talk about online assessment for learning from the eye of technology. So it's not a paper, it's just ideas based on my experience in KVIP training. Feel free to write the question in the chat box during my talk. And I'm going to highlight some points here. This is in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to talk about what assessment for learning is, and then misconception of assessment for learning, because there are so many misconceptions. Then assessment for learning in practice, I'm going to share later what I did in my training, and also for teaching writing for my class. Yeah, and then followed by question and answer later. So assessment for learning is an approach. It's not just a test. It's an approach to teaching and learning, and to create feedback. And the purpose of that is to improve the student's performance. So again, assessment for learning is not a test. It's an approach to teaching and learning that create feedbacks. And the feedback should improve the student's performance, not a scary feedback or feedback that demotivate the students. Yeah, we have to keep that in mind. Then students become more involved in learning process, and from there, hopefully the student will gain confidence in what they are expected to learn. So again, it's an approach, create feedbacks, improve student performance, assessment for learning. So positive feedbacks. I'm going to show some tools that I'm using, improving students' performance, involving students in the learning project, and our approach in teaching. If we are talking about assessment for learning, later on with tools that we can use for online learning. Now, assessment for learning is increased confidence and increased independence. Yeah, there are some more benefits along the way when the students learn, but the end, it should be increases confidence and increases misconception about assessment for learning. Yeah, assessment is to assess the student's progress. Part of the learning is not testing. Then another misconception: examination are the only type of assessment. Learning and things like that. That's not assessment for learning. Then another should always be given a grade or mark. This is usually parents when you're in middle school. Kenapa PR-nya tidak dinilai? Kenapa ujian? For learning, mark is not a must. Grade is not a must. Yeah. Teacher assess the students, but actually in assessment for learning, it should be like a dialogue. It's a communication, giving feedback, and the student is correct. Yeah. Okay. When I put then it should be learners. It's learning, it's not testing. It's in the hand of the teachers. It's a very specific feedback. It's so it's not just testing in the end of this learning process. Not that, but assessment for learning, it's a lot along the way, when the company now, the creation of the learner centered class teacher and the student who have making mistakes, because mistakes are the here that's become the key for assessment for learning. Yeah. I'm going to concentrate on this on. Okay. There are some more that we can discuss later on. Questioning, feedback, peer assessment, assessment for learning. It should be a questioning from the teacher, then the students will respond. The constructive feedback, encouraging feedback, and so on. Peer assessment is really important, especially assessment from friends, giving feedback from each other, learning together in a good environment. That's become important in part. Now, questioning. When we do online, then questioning sometimes become a problem. When we have in class, then it's very easy to ask questions. The first row and the second row, they will usually answer the questions. Yeah, but not necessarily a quiz. Yeah, questions that try to find out what's the learner understand, or brainstorming questions, encouraging questions, things like that. Yeah. How many of you familiar with Answer Garden? Can you respond in the chat box, please? Can you say yes or no? Michael Seombing, of course, yeah. No? Rekam yes, Asper. Okay, Ekanu. So some of you, yes, some of you know. Yeah. Answer Garden. Okay, how about Ghost Box, the first one? Yes, no, no, no. Michael, try it, Michael, later. Muhammad Ilham, no. Okay, Ghost Box. And most of you, I think, familiar with mental. Okay, Answer Garden, why I put it here, it's a good way to ask questions very quickly. The teacher doesn't need an account. The student doesn't need 5 minutes, 3 minutes. So it's good for brainstorming. Yeah, okay, that's Answer Garden. That's similar to Mentimeter. The teacher an account. Question box, that's better in a way compared to Answer Garden. Multiple choice, open questions, and again, the students, they do not need to create an account or to log. Here, I'm going to give you example of answer garden. I'm not to try the question box, but you can try apps questionbox.com. Then they will give you a number so that the student can access that. That's a very quick one, but the answer is only word, yes or no, very limited characters like Twitter. Okay, and you can try it if you are not familiar. If you're familiar, then you know what it is. Yeah. So click the link. I give to my students or to the participants, then they online test, for example. Okay, can we try that? Answer one word about online test. Just click the link, then you can respond on that. When you want to create one, you need to have an account. You to answer garden. Then follow the step. That's very easy. Just to give an example, click the letter. Thank you. Confident. Okay, you can cheat very easily when you're doing online test. Nobody supervise you. That's become a challenge. That's an assessment. Thank you very much. So, better only one, simpler or well, and so on. So you can create this word cloud for the beginning of your class. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Let's move on. Yeah. That's for brainstorming type of questioning to the students. Now, how about feedback? Feedback is usually from the teacher, but not necessarily from the teacher only. Can be from their friend. The idea of feedback is to discuss the thing that they are learning. Yeah. The key word is to discuss where they are, how they are doing, where are they going around that area in a friendly situation. Usually, when we're giving feedback in a formal setting, that's going to be very difficult. Yeah. Now, we talk about tools, then 3 tools that I usually use to get feedback to my student. I start from Screencastify. Are you familiar with Screencastify? Yes or no, please, in the chat box. No? No, yes, no, still no, no. Okay. Okay, so I'll give you an idea. Screencastify is free, because if I demo it, that will take time. It's free. It's in Chrome. So you just Google Screencastify. So that's in Chrome. Basically, you capture the screen, then you can record your voice. For example, if you're teaching writing, then your student put your student's writing on the screen, and then you click record, and then you start talking about, oh, your topic sentence is not very good, this example is irrelevant, and so on and so on. So it's a video type of feedback for your students. Yeah. Then you can upload it later in YouTube and then give the link to your students to be watched, or you can put it in the Google Classroom, and so on. So it's a video type of feedback. It's free for 5 minutes, yeah. But if you want more, then you have to pay. But 5 minutes giving oral feedback, it's more than enough. From my experience when I'm teaching up to essay writing, but not for bimbingan thesis. Ya, kalau untuk bimbingan thesis, maybe you need another tools for that. Okay, so that's video type of feedback. How many of you familiar with Kaizen? Yes, no, in the chat box, please. Michael, no, and so on. Okay, then I'm going to tell you the story of Kaizen. Kaizen is the family of Google. It's the family of Google Docs. So it will work in the setting of Google Drive. When you assign your students, usually, if not email, then you ask your students to put that in a Google Drive. So if you are familiar with Google Classroom and Google Drive, you can install Kaizen. Kaizen is again, when you open the student's work in a Google Drive, then there are two options. You can give comment with types, or you can give comment orally. Yeah. So when you give comment orally, then you use Kaizen. So you do not need Screencastify, you need Kaizen, and then that automatically will be embedded in the Google Drive. So your students, when they open the file, they will listen your voice if they click the comment. Yeah. Sometimes in a lot of environment, giving feedback, it's much better using voice compared to using type. Yeah. Okay, that's feedback. Mostly Screencastify, it's like video type of feedback. Kaizen is oral feedback. That's the strength for that, so that not become scary. Fokaru. Now, how many of you familiar with Fokaru? Can you answer yes or no? Yeah. Abdillah, yes, no, no. Okay, Fokaru is a tool to record your voice in the cloud, free, so you can embed that in the student's worksheet. You can give instruction. You can give message in Telegram or WhatsApp. Yeah, you can stick the Fokaru in almost any platform, actually, in a Google Classroom, in a Padlet, in the LMS. Yeah, so you can give feedback on that. I use Fokaru a lot to give instruction. I give Fokaru a lot to talk to my students so that we are chatting in a voice with Fokaru. Yeah, I'm going to show you what it's look like for Fokaru because I find it very useful. It's not like giving message in a WhatsApp that you have to download. Fokaru explain or recording or record the sounds in the cloud. Yeah, so you go to fokaru.com. Yeah, then will become like this. You do not need to have an account, and the student do not need to have an account. Start recording. Thank you very much for coming. I think your paragraph is very good. Will be great if you put one more, just one more details and one more examples on that. After you rewrite that, can you send it to me? Or do you have another idea? Thank you. That's a type of feedback that I usually give to my students. Yeah. So I already record that. And I save and share. I save that there. Yeah, if I want to give it to my student, I just copy this. Then I can put it in Google Classroom. I can put it in the digital student work. I can send it in the LMS and so on. Yeah, so there are many tools that you can use that. But the idea is recording in the cloud. So if I put this, I copy this, then I put it in the chat box, for example, then you can listen to the recording. I put that in Canva, I put that in my worksheet, because I know usually the students are very lazy in reading the instruction. So I give a lot of instruction in the worksheet using Vocaro. Yeah. Okay, so that's Vocaro. Try it. Simple, a good way of giving feedback, a good way of giving encouragement when the students in a students learning setting. Yeah. Okay. Let's me move on to peer assessment. Peer assessment, some people use Google Doc a lot. Feedback fruit, it's very good, but should be the university technician should put the feedback fruit in the learning management system and campus. When they use Moodle type of platform, then they talk to them, they might know that, and then they can put a feedback fruit in the LMS. Because the LMS in campus, usually it's very boring, plain, and so on. Yeah, feedback fruit, they give a lot of flavor, and it's become very user-friendly to give peer assessment. Yeah. Peer assessment that I use a lot is Padlet. How many of you familiar with Padlet? Yes or no? In the chat box, please. Yeah. Ibu Nur, thank you. Yes. Dina, yes. Masrudin, no. Rahman, no. Nurinda, yes. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Some of you are familiar with that. Ibu Siti Ajar also familiar with Padlet. Padlet is also a great place for you to give feedback to your students, but also it's a very good platform for peer assessment. Yeah. If you're not familiar with Padlet, you go to padlet.com. You will get a 3 Padlet for free. Try it. Padlet basically is it's a wall. It's a digital walls that you can put sound, you can put video, you can put text, and anyone who got the address, they can contribute anything, contribute text, contribute picture, contribute video, contribute sound in the Padlet. So it's a good environment for collaboration, peer correction, working together, and so on. It's not just like a digital board. Yeah, it's more than that. Okay, Padlet that I use Padlet a lot, but one thing that I like about Padlet is I will ask my students to give comment or to give score to one another. Yeah, this is an example of my Padlet. This is the students' work. They write their essay, so put their essay here. Then the friend will put grade here. If you look at it here, there are 12 students giving grade to this essay, 90 out of 100. This one, 88 out of 100. 9 students already put the grade there, and so on. Yeah, so they learn from each other. They look at one another's essay and then giving a mark. Before this, usually I ask them to give comment. Yeah. Towards the end of the semester, when they're familiar, when they're happy to look at one another as a work, then I ask them to put grade on that. So there are a lot of facilities in Padlet that you can use. Yeah. So explore here, explore this. This is so powerful. Yeah. You will get 3. Again, but you can download the result, and then you can reuse the page. So 3 pages email address, then you will get another 3. Yeah. So you got 6. I think it's more than enough. Feedback. It's very good for giving a peer feedback. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on a little bit. Yeah. Assessment. There is a free tools that you can create apps. It's called learning apps. How many of you or can you respond yes or no? No? Yes, yes, Michael, for sure. No, Ibu Siti Hajar. Others? Okay. No, no, no. Okay. I'm going to good to give a student self-assessment. Yeah, so they assess themselves. Siswanya enggak, because it's for self-assessment, for self-study. Yeah, think about that so that the environment is not that scary. Software, but not this one. Okay, I'm going to show you because this is for other subject. Yeah, log in, then you might create register new account if you don't have the. Then browse app. Look around first. See, so there are category of all kind of subject: physics, psychology, religion, Russian. There are so many. Okay. Then here you have this. This is elementary. This is primarily. This is vocational, and here is higher education. Yeah. So you can move this slide bar. Okay. Then if you want to create, for example, English as a foreign language, you click that. Then there are samples that you can see. So explore, browse the apps before you create anything. Okay. Then you can create the apps. When you create the apps, that will be very simple steps that you can explore on your own. And there are some sample as well. So what you need is an idea. Then you pick a template. Then you fill in the template, save, that's become your app, and then you share it. As simple as that. If you need to know more, then you can go to Google, and you will find some tutorials there. Yeah. But creating this, it's very useful. You can do it on your own. You can work as a team, not necessarily with the English teacher, but also for other teachers of science, even history. Yeah, can work together on that. So it's a good tools. I find it useful, not complicated, useful, and it's good for middle school. University students might get a little bit bored about that. Yeah, I love the matching pairs on image for vocabulary. Yeah, to give the vocabulary exposure to the student. Okay, that's learning apps. Now AI, because self-assessment, one of the aim is to increase confidence and become independent learner. Yeah, so I'm going to give you some example of AI. My experience using AI with for my class when I teach the writing. How many of you familiar with Outright? Can you respond in the chat box, please? Outright, no. Pro Writing 8? No. Okay. Oh, okay. virtual writing tutor? The last one? Yes or no? Okay, so I'm going to go very slow in this part. Just bear with me for a while. Are you familiar with Grammarly? Yes or no? Yeah, okay. If you're familiar with Grammarly, then it's okay. Yeah. Apps Outright, it's very similar to Grammarly. Pro Writing Aid is very similar to Grammarly. So these two, they are very familiar with Grammarly. Grammarly is good when you have a strong basis foundation of grammar. Yeah. Outright, it's a freemium. Freemium meaning some part are free, some part you have to pay. Yeah, and Pro Writing Aid is the same. It's freemium. Yeah, the freemium one is good enough actually. Yeah. Let me move on to the next slide. So I use Outright just for spelling and grammar. So when I assign my students, can you write a paragraph? Then after you finished with your first draft, go to Outright. That's in a Google form. In Chrome base. Yeah. Then just check the spelling and grammar, and then rewrite it. Okay. After you rewrite that, I ask my students to consult with Pro Writing Aid. Go to prowritingaid.com. Again, I ask them to check the spelling, grammar, and style. So one step at a time. In Grammarly, everything come at once. With this one, then it's step by step, helping the students so that they feel confident when they make so many mistakes. Then they will correct their own writing slowly. Yeah. So after Pro Writing Aid, they're fixing the style a little bit on that. Yeah. Then usually, I will ask my students to go to paperwriter.com. Paperwriter.com, that will correct the grammar again, spelling again, and word choice. Yeah, the style, it's with the Pro Writing Aid. So slowly, a bit by bit. But then Paperwriter got tools so that they can see their, I got 5 minutes, thank you, their work scoring. I'm going to show you very quickly what it looks like. Yeah, scoring. Okay, so if you go to paperwriter.com, use now free, then type it here. This is the paragraph, for example. Yeah. Then choose this is undergraduate, for example, and so on. Then click get report. Then you will get report whether your paragraph got A, B, or C, or A. If my student got B, then I'll say, are you happy? If you're happy, give it to me. Then I'll talk to you about coherence and so on. When you are not happy, then rewrite it. Yeah. Another one that could be useful is virtualwritingtutor.com. This one will give a tutoring to the students. So if they can, even they can score their essay. Yeah, explore it by yourself later. I'm going to give you an example of how it works when giving feedback of an essay. Let me check my students' work. Just 1 second. To give you an idea. So for example, if I have this essay written by students, I copy it. Then I will put it in here. Then I go score essay. This is an opinion essay. So I click check. Then the students will get details feedback from the AI. So the assignment score is 64. Yeah. Then the quality of writing 66%. Why? Then this give a cohesion and so on. They give a lot of advice for the students that they should rewrite their essay. Usually I give this tools to my student and talk to them when they are happy with that, and then give it to me. Then I can give advice more on the logic, the more example, the coherence, who are your audience, and so on, beyond the mechanics. Yeah. Okay, that's writing tutor. Explore that. There are some tutorials good for the students before they write. They will guide the students step by step in writing their essay. Yeah. Okay, that's AI that can be used for giving feedback to the students. Another AI and testing that's free. It's EnglishScore.com. You go there, download in a Google Play or App Store. It's free. Then you will know the result. You have to pay if you want the certificate. Yeah. So the students can find about their level, grammar, vocab, reading, and listening, but no speaking. Yeah. Okay. If you want to get my slide, just take a screenshot of this one. bit.ly/jati-network, then you will get my slide. You can see that. Or if you're interested in technology, you can go to bit.ly, masuk Telegram, then you will become a member of the Telegram group. Then we can talk about technology. There are so many members there. Telegram ITEL also. If you want to get a free book on technology in Bahasa Indonesia, mengajar bahasa Inggris dengan teknologi, you go to bit.ly/ITEL-book-1. That's in Google Play and it's free. Yeah. Thank you very much. Back to you, Ibu Ria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gumawang Jati, for your stimulating presentation, especially on the softwares related to assessment. You remind us of the importance to question what it is really assessment in this online era means. I'm so happy Ibu Cecilia Halimi, PhD, is now with us. I'm sorry that Pak Jati has taken your session as the first speaker. Without further ado, the time is yours, Ibu Cecilia.
Okay, well, Ibu, first of all, I'd like to apologize. I think I didn't pay attention to the time. I used the Western Indonesian time. It turned out that it started earlier. So I really apologize for this. And okay, well, thank you, Ibu Ria, and I will just start my presentation. Okay, well, in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to share with you this topic, dynamic assessment, how to use it in hybrid learning. Well, if Pak Jati presented something which is very advanced in the use of technology, I think this one is for those who don't have access to technology easily. Yeah, so well, as Pak Jati also mentioned, there are also things that technology cannot actually cover in providing feedback. Yeah, for example, like feedback on content, for example. Yeah, so this is maybe an alternative or an addition to what Pak Jati has explained. And first of all, I'd like to remind you of what dynamic assessment is. Yeah, although I know that most of you have already learned about this since a long time ago. Yeah, so this is the overview of my presentation. First, I'd like to explain what dynamic assessment is, and then what hybrid learning is, and then how to use dynamic assessment in hybrid learning. Okay, so what is dynamic assessment? Well, it is an approach, which integrates integrates both teaching and assessment activities at the same time. Yeah, and this is a specific kind of assessment that provides corrective feedback, which emphasizes the process of learning. Yeah, so the emphasis here is not on the product, but more on the process of learning, how we can help students develop themselves, yeah, through the feedback that we provide during the learning process. So this approach to assessment and instruction was actually derived from Vygotsky's theory of the zone of proximal development. Yeah, so Vygotsky believes that the student potential can be developed further, yeah, in the process of learning. The term dynamic assessment itself was first introduced by Luria, so not by Vygotsky, in 1961. And dynamic assessment challenges the traditional teaching and testing approaches. It argues that a full pictures of student performance requires the person performance with assistance from someone else and the extent to which the person can benefit from this assistance, not only in completing the same task or test, but in transferring this mediated performance to different tasks or tests. So usually research in dynamic assessment will also cover the delayed measure of students' performance, yeah, because the belief is that student performance should be measured by also paying attention to whether they are able to transfer what they have learned, yeah, to different tasks or tests. And there are three components of dynamic assessment. So the first one is what we call the intentionality. Yeah, so these are the probes, question, hints, and clues from a mediator to assist a learner to do a task that is within his or her zone of proximal development, but which he or she can't do alone. Well, this is also related, I think, to the input hypothesis from Krashen, yeah, that the input should not be too low and should not be too high. Yeah, so it has to be comprehensible input. So it has to be within, yeah, student zone of proximal development, but yeah, she can't do it alone. So she needs some help. Yeah, this is the concept of dynamic assessment. And then the second component of dynamic assessment is what is called the reciprocity. So the learner's ability to respond to the instructor's mediation. So the term usually used in dynamic assessment is mediation, yeah, instead of feedback, yeah, instructor mediation to determine the amount and quality of mediation needed to produce significant cognitive changes in the learner's performance. So it's their ability, yeah, to respond, yeah, to the instructor's mediation. And then the last component is what we call transcendence. Yeah, so this is the goal, yeah, of dynamic assessment. So the ultimate purpose of the mediated learning is cognitive development. So we really hope through this assessment, yeah, student can develop their cognition. Yeah, okay, and so this is the belief, yeah, of dynamic assessment. A mediator achieve a more detailed insight of a learner's potential abilities than with a non-dynamic test. And the mediator is also able to enhance development in the learner by teaching at the same time as testing. Yeah, so this is what the dynamic assessment believes, yeah, that it is important to provide mediation, yeah, and this will be possible if teachers do it at the same time in the process of learning, not only at the time of testing. Okay, and now let's move to the approaches, to dynamic assessment. Well, there are two approaches. So the first one is called the interactionist. Here the mediator provides question, hints, or prompts which are not pre-planned. Instead, they stem from mediated dialogue between the examiner and the examinee, in which the examiner responds to the examinee's needs and continually readjusts his or her mediation. So here, the teacher really has to be very fast, creative in providing mediation to his or her student. And the second one is what we call the interventionist. In this approach, a predetermined list of hints followed rigidly during the assessment activities in order to produce easily quantifiable result. So the teachers has already prepared what kind of mediation he or she wants to provide to the assessment during the assessment activities. And some scholars, such as Sternberg and Grigorenko, differentiate between what they call sandwich and layer cake models. So the sandwich model usually consists of three phases, which is the pre-test in the assessment, and then there is mediation, and then post-test. But of course, we can do some adaptation to this sandwich model and use it differently. I will show you an example later. And then the next one, the layer cake model, refers to procedures in which mediation is given during the test administration, usually different from the sandwich model. Now, what is hybrid learning? Well, I just took from some information available here. A lesson taught simultaneously in person and online. So there are some session. And these are some of the usefulness of using hybrid learning. So you have flexible synchronously. They can do accommodated by the differently abled abilities, and it reaches remote areas, and it familiarizes user with modern technology. This hybrid learning, but it is not as complicated as full online learning. Okay. And as we all have done this during the pandemic, because we don't see them face to face very often. If we use multiple choice question, we are afraid that the student will cheat, because we can't really observe the situation. Our technology is not as advanced as big universities in the States, who can even observe. So if they are doing something which is show a tendency of doing some cheating, in conducting assessment, and way of thinking that assessment has to be in the form of tasks. While actually there are different alternatives in assessment that we can use, but still we feel that if it is not in the form of a task, we feel that there is something which is missing. So maybe we can change this way of thinking, and start to implement assessment, some alternatives in assessment in our classroom. And this dynamic assessment is actually one of the possibilities that we can use in our classroom. Okay, well, which one? In relation to that, I would like to explain about the formative versus summative assessment. Some people always think that it is not complete if you haven't given student any summative assessment. And even some only give summative assessment. While actually research has shown that conducting formative assessment brings better result. So if you provide more opportunities for students to do small assessment, then they will study more effectively. So that's why we really have to switch from this way of thinking to a different way of thinking and implement some form of formative assessment in our classroom. Okay, now I will share with you how I use this dynamic assessment in my class. I use, so there are, as I mentioned to you before, there are two approaches that we can implement: interactionist or interventionist. And we can use sandwich or layer cake models. And we can provide a mediation in the form of written or oral mediation. So we can choose from these approaches available. So I will give you an example of my writing class. And this is a class that for the second year student. So I use the approach of interventionist and use a sandwich model, and I use this pre-mediation and post, but in a different way. So it's not in the form of a task, but in the form of a draft. So this is a multi-draft writing class, and the focus is on paragraph writing. So this is the implementation of this dynamic assessment in my paragraph writing class. So there are the synchronous session. Well, unfortunately, up to now, we haven't had any face-to-face session. So the hybrid learning hasn't been really implemented in my university. So it is more this online learning. But I really pay attention to the synchronous and asynchronous session. Why it is important to emphasize this? Because a lot of teachers feel that if they don't have synchronous session, they haven't delivered their lecture. While actually as you all know that not all of our students have good internet connection. So we also have to consider all the students, and therefore, if it is possible, we should also use a lot of asynchronous session, but we have to be able to monitor the work during this asynchronous session. So for the synchronous session, in which I really ask students to be present, I use the first two sessions for training. Because I want to use the peer mediation instead of teachers mediation. Yeah, so during this training session, I explained about how they should provide feedback or mediation towards their students' writing. Towards their student writing. And this is done not only one session, but 2 sessions to make sure that students have really understood how to provide this mediation on their friends' writing. And then I put them in pairs. And then I every week, not every week, sorry. So after the input session, in which the teachers explain about the assigned task, and because they have to write different types of paragraphs, then they work on the first draft on their own, and then after that, I ask them for the following week to do the asynchronous session. So they work, during that week, they have a partner and they have to provide feedback. And after that, they have to do revision based on this feedback that is considered as the mediation. So the first draft is the pre, and then there is a mediation, and then the post test here is the revised draft. And then after that, I have this synchronous session for the sharing session. The sharing session before I start with the input session. So I ask them to explain, each one, I give them time, to explain about how they understood the feedback provided by their partner. By doing this, we can see whether they have understood or not the feedback provided by the teacher. So when the feedback has been understood correctly, based on my experience, most of them can revise their work well. And then after that, they submit the revision, and this is the part that will be checked by me as the teachers, and I also provide the final feedback for their work. So this is one way of implementing dynamic assessment in a writing class. So we don't have to meet with our student every week, but we can monitor that there is deadline for submitting the revision and etc. So this is very important. But by doing this, we don't require students to do synchronous session every week. And by doing that, this can solve the problem of some students who have problems with internet connection. And also spending money for their internet. So this is one way of implementing this dynamic assessment in the classroom. Okay, and then the second one is the listening class. Well, I forgot to explain to you that when I use this dynamic assessment, I didn't think about all the programs or the website that Pak Jati explained. If you want to integrate those technology, you can do it in your sessions. So instead of peer feedback, you can also ask your student to use a particular program to check their writing. This is also dynamic assessment because you provide mediation through technology. So you can integrate what Pak Jati has explained in the conventional classroom online context. And then and if we implement it in a hybrid class, of course the sharing session can be conducted during the face-to-face session. So this is this will will allow students, I think, to do a deeper discussion also, so that they can ask to one another in a more engaging context. Yeah, so that's a possibility, another possibility of using this dynamic assessment. So dynamic assessment can also be used by integrating technology. It doesn't have to come from the teachers and the peers only. And then in this listening class, I used the, and the feedback that the student have provided, it was something which is already, as I mentioned to you before, it was interventionist. Why it was interventionist? Because I have already provided some guidelines on how students provide mediation. So in writing the paragraphs, they have to pay attention to the topic sentence, if the topic sentence is available, and then how the controlling ideas were developed by the student, by the writers, and then whether there was the concluding sentence. So it's interventionist. Why it is interventionist? Because the feedback provided has been determined before. So before they started providing feedback. Okay, and then for this listening class, I used the interactionist, and then using the layer cake. Again, this is the same, but this is the note-taking class, the note-taking class, So again, there are some synchronous and asynchronous session. I didn't hear from Pak Jati any technology that can be used for this, but maybe you can integrate the use of recorded feedback, if you want to do. But this is conducted using the interactionist approach, means that I don't provide students with any guidelines in providing the feedback. So they really have to pay attention to the product, which is in the form of note takings. During the input session, I explain what they're going to listen, and they can do it outside the class session. I first explain about how to do note taking, and then explain about the symbols that can use so that they can make it simple, and they can include all the information that the important information that they listen from the lecture. And then they do the listening session outside class hour, and again but this time to reduce the burden, or to make it easier for students. I ask them to do this in group, and then they can do the discussion, provide feedback to one another, but there is no guidelines for this. So students really have to look at the work produced by their peers, and then provide feedback. And the same, and there will be a sharing session after this, before I start with the input session again, and they have to explain about the mediation provided by their friends, whether they agree or disagree, and they can explain the differences. So this is one example of using the interactionist approach. So, and this is the layer cake model. So I asked them to listen part by part, to make it easy, and then start the discussion. So there is feedback for each part. And after that, of course, they can. I think this is something which is from easy to more difficult task. So they will do it step by step. Okay, so this is the conclusion, based on my experience in using dynamic assessment. So dynamic assessment is effective if feedback is identified clearly. So it is very important that we trained our student if we want to use the not the interactionist, yeah, but the other one, yeah. So this is very important, yeah. But I haven't done any research related to the interactionist approach, yeah, in which student have to think, yeah, directly, yeah, without any guidance, yeah. So this is an interesting area to research further, yeah. And a mediation should form an essential part of the process of learning language skills, yeah. So this has been emphasized by a lot of scholars, that mediation is important if you want your student to improve their language proficiency. And then there have been a lot of research related to dynamic assessment. So it is good, yeah, if we as teacher would like to try out the various techniques that are available, yeah, and considered effective, yeah, through research, yeah. So instead of using our own technique, why don't we use what is available, yeah, because they have been proved, yeah, to be effective in implementing dynamic assessment. I think that's all from me, Ibu Ria. Thank you.
You're still muted, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Cecilia, for your presentation. Your talk on dynamic assessment is quite interesting. The assessment itself is dynamic. And as you said, dynamic assessment is challenging when we use it in hybrid learning. I think we cannot wait any longer to listen to Ananda's talk on an example of implementing hybrid assessment of spoken communication for an English placement test in one of US universities, focusing on its challenges and outcomes. The time is yours, Ananda.
Okay, let me quickly share my screen.
Okay.
The previous presenters have talked about hybrid learning, assessments in hybrid learning. Meanwhile, my presentation will talk about a hybrid assessment. And I'll define what I mean by hybrid assessment later in the context of an English placement test at a US university, which is actually the university where I work and study at, Iowa State University. So before I give an overview of my presentation today, I'd like to specifically point out that much of the content in this presentation has been presented as a paper presentation at the very recent 2021 Midwest Association of Language Testers Conference. And my co-researchers were Professor Gary Oki, faculty at Iowa State University, and my colleague in the Applied Linguistics and Technology program, Jean Beck, a PhD student at ISU. So we worked on this paper together and presented it at the Language Testers Conference. A little bit of my background that wasn't mentioned previously in relation to this hybrid assessment. I was the assistant coordinator for the English placement test of oral communication from August 2019 to May 2021. So this picture shows you my work as the assistant coordinator during the pandemic, where we had to still administer the speaking test to our non-native English speakers who are international students at the university. So I was wearing PPE. I was just like really protected, and as you can see, it's outdoors. So I'll talk about that a little bit more because I'm not sure if you've ever seen an assessment that was conducted literally outdoors. Okay, so I'll be first talking about the goals of the present presentation, because I understand that my topic is a little bit actually quite different from the previous presenters. More background about the English placement test of oral communication itself, and how it looks like before the pandemic. And then transitioning to why didn't we go fully online? So the pandemic really forced us to think out of the box, and thinking out of the box comes with thinking about how do we not change our tests so much, but at the same time making sure that it's safe test administration because of the pandemic. And then I'll talk about what our hybrid assessment ended up looking like. And then the final 2 points will be what complications were encountered during the test administration and the lessons learned from that test administration. So firstly, the goals. In the context of an English placement test, I would definitely love to introduce what our placement test looks like, which is created in-house. This presentation is possibly interesting to people whose universities or schools have their own placement tests created in-house by themselves. Or maybe on the other side is if you're interested in creating your own test because you're trying to move away from using standardized tests like TOEFL, IBT, PBT, ITP, IELTS, you name it. So trying to move away from that and really using a placement test that fits your organization's needs. This could be the presentation that can help you think about that by illustrating an example of a speaking test in our university. And then in terms of testing during the pandemic, so schools transitioned to hybrid learning. And for us, in our case, we had to transition to a hybrid assessment. So I'd like to explain the impact of the pandemic on a large university's placement test and to describe the thinking out of the box that took place to address pandemic challenges. And finally, I would like to introduce terminology and concepts related to speaking tests. So regarding Iowa State University's English placement test of oral communication, perhaps I should first talk about what is a placement test. So at least at US universities, when you're applying to a university, you use TOEFL, IBT tests, you use IELTS tests, and your department would have a certain level of English language proficiency requirement that you need to fulfill. So you get into the university using that test score, but then we also have a university-wide requirement, English language proficiency requirement. And if you don't meet that requirement, you need to take the placement test. If you don't pass the placement test, you get placed into English as a second language courses at the university. So that's essentially what the ISU EPT oral communication is, and I'll be moving forward. I'll refer to this as the EPT OC. So the oral communication part is specifically to assess your ability to successfully communicate orally in an academic setting. Now, what it looks like pre-pandemic is we have two tasks. The first task we call the individual interview task, and this involves a one-on-one speaking test with 3 questions related to an image that we show to the student, the test takers, and the image typically shows a situation encountered by students at a U.S. university. So they answer the 3 questions, and then they move on to what we call a paired discussion task. If you see the individual interview task image that I have, the very first image, you see 2 raters and 2 test takers. So the test takers are in the individual interview task are rated by 1 rater each. And then in the paired discussion task, the students talk to each other, and they are rated by the 2 raters. In the paired discussion task, before they talk to each other, the 2 students summarize an audio recording, and then they argue for or against the topic played in the audio. So this is our typical setup. Everything is face-to-face. No one wears a PPE, obviously, because it's pre-pandemic. And then we play the audio using the audio system in the classrooms that we use for the test. When the pandemic happened, that was in fall 2021 for us, I guess. That's when we really felt the impact. We actually, before we decided to use computers to do the test, doing the hybrid part of our assessment, we actually went outdoors. So in the previous pre-pandemic EPT, we were in classrooms, but we didn't want to go online because of the many technical issues related to it. There's a lot of logistical issues as well. So we decided, since if you've never been to Iowa, in the fall, that's August, the July, August-ish, the weather is still pretty nice. Sometimes it can be actually still fairly hot. So we went outdoors, and no other changes happened except for that it's outdoors and we used masks, PPE, etc. But the tasks remained the same. The number of raters remained the same. Our rating system to input the grades were the same. So not a lot of things have changed. I am not going to talk about the outdoor assessment. And if you're interested in that assessment that we did in fall 2021, I encourage you to read our paper that we wrote for a special issue in the Language Assessment Quarterly Journal. And this is actually open access, I believe. So you don't need to have a subscription to the journal. You can just download it. That's where the picture from the previous slides came from. So then after the outdoors test administration, we moved on to the winter 2021 test administration. And that is spring 2021 test administration. And in January, Iowa winter is very, very harsh. You do not want to do the test outdoors. So we were thinking, okay, what if we do this online? Meaning students are online, raters are online. Rater is the people who are giving the test. Okay, let's see what the problems are with that kind of test. First, uniformity across test sites is very difficult to control. What is meant by uniformity? Uniformity means that the test is administered the exact same way to all of the test takers. This means that internet quality must be the same for everyone. The test type would be the same for everyone. The test location would be exactly the same for everyone. Now, the problem with if we go online is that obviously internet quality differences may lead to retesting students. So we have one student taking the test in China. Maybe at home they don't have the greatest internet connection. In Indonesia, maybe they're taking it at home. In the case of Green and Lung, I think, McDonald's, they had to take the test in a restaurant because they don't have internet connection at home, right? What does it mean if they had to go to a restaurant to get Wi-Fi connection, right? Well, McDonald's, it's very, very loud. There's a lot of people, right? Maybe you can barely listen to the person who you're talking to online. That affects students, right? That negatively impacts students. So there's an issue with uniformity. Another concern is test security. So as the previous presenters have said, when you go online, it's very easy to cheat. One way to address the cheating concern is to use what we call proctoring software. Proctoring software helps the test administration become more secure in that when there's instances of cheating identified, and the identification usually involves artificial intelligence. So the computer signals, hey, this person's eyes are moving too fast. It seems like this person is trying to cheat by looking at something else and not text. That requires a lot of money. Proctoring software is very expensive. Another issue with proctoring software is that not all of them have the same level of sensitivity. Sometimes they, in the case of Purpura, Devudifard, and Boss, they found that proctoring software have issues in identifying false flags. So they identified it as cheating, right? But it wasn't actually cheating. So the computer couldn't really sensitively identify the difference between, oh, just looking somewhere really quick, but not really cheating, and actual cheating itself. So those are our two main concerns related to moving online. So we saw it out of the box and finally decided that we need to do this as a hybrid assessment. In our operationalization of hybrid, what we mean by hybrid assessment is that we use computers, okay, we use laptops, but because it was COVID-19, right, we're really afraid of infecting each other. So what happened is everyone was still on campus, right? So the test takers are on campus, the raters are on campus, but they are in different rooms. So raters are in their offices in campus buildings using university Wi-Fi, which is very strong. Test takers are also in campus buildings in different classrooms, and they use university Wi-Fi, and they also use university MacBooks. So the difference is that we're not fully online because we're actually still on campus. So to address the issue of uniformity, we want to make sure that test sites can be controlled. We do this by one, everyone is using university Wi-Fi, so we expected no difference in internet connection quality. Test takers use university MacBooks in empty classrooms, so no one is in the classroom. That means we didn't need to wear masks, right? Because we were alone, so we were in a very secure environment in terms of making sure that we don't infect each other. And the uniformity aspect is also ensured because we tell students, especially incoming students who are still in their respective countries, saying, hey, you can only take this test if you are on campus. If you're still in China, Indonesia, Egypt, you can't take the test. You must be on campus so you can use university MacBooks and Wi-Fi. And then we ensure test security by making sure that test takers are observed by raters at all times. So we turn on our video, obviously, and the rater can see that there's no one in the room with the test taker. We also left a video recorder in each testing room that records the test taker while they're doing the speaking test, so that when we're suspicious of a cheating activity, because the rater told us like, hey, that person seems to be looking downwards, you might want to check their video recording, so we can check that. But fortunately, we didn't have any instances like that. And finally, we asked test takers not to touch the laptop. They can't do anything with the keyboard, so there's no way to screenshot tasks, and there's no way for them to send details of the test to themselves. Okay, so that's how we ensure test security with this hybrid assessment. Now I'd like to talk about the actual layout of the hybrid EPTOC administration. So initially what happens is test takers They register obviously using our platform called Speed Test, and they choose what time they want to come to take the test. They get a confirmation email saying, hey, you signed up, you registered for this test, and you signed up for 10 a.m. So come 15 minutes before 10 a.m. And then our website, our English placement test website, highlights only students who are on campus and can take the test. So those are the only the students who we can give the test to. And this is what happens in the building. So we confirm the student's identity, right? So we can confirm this when they come into the building. And then we take them to their first room. This is where they complete their individual interview task. So the raters, it is not the rater's job to ask them to show their passport. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then after they finish the task with the first rater, they go to the second room and then they complete the argument task with the rater. So they don't speak to another test taker, they speak with the rater. And then they leave the building. That's it. They don't wear a mask while in the room, but while they move between rooms, they need to wear a mask to protect themselves and to protect the test administrators. Yep, just like what I said. Now, several points related to this layout. Students tested in a secure room on campus, and raters in a separate room on campus allowed for students and raters to remove their masks. Remember, this is a speaking test, right? So you need to make sure that you can hear the student and the student can hear you asking them questions and talking to them, right? And it's also very important that we have stable internet. In the previous study that I cited, Green and Leung, I believe, they had to retest about 90% of their students because most of them didn't have great internet. So imagine the resources needed to retest students. That's a lot of money involved. And then it's COVID-19 again. We need a safe testing environment. We need to make sure that students, the problem with English placement tests is if you don't pass the test, you need to take an ESL course, and that will probably stop you from being able to take content courses in your department. So if students don't take the test immediately after they arrive in the US because they're concerned about the safety, the safe environment of our tests, then they just can't take content courses, and that negatively impacts the student. So we made sure that the test administrators sanitized rooms in between sessions. We cleaned everything using sanitizers, and then personal protective equipment were worn outside of the test room. I was using gloves that I changed every 15 minutes. We had a lot of medical grade gloves. We used, along with face masks, we used face shields as I was moving inside the building. One important thing, and it's a very good thing for our speaking test, is that there was very minimal change in tasks. This was very good for us because we didn't have to think about the logistics of changing tasks. So we did take the student partner out of the task. If you recall, in the pair discussion task pre-pandemic, they actually talked. Students and students talk in task 2. We actually asked the raters to do the task 2 to be the interlocutor. Raters did feel that the delivery of the task remained consistent throughout, so there were no particular changes. The raters, because they were the main interlocutors throughout the whole test, they didn't feel like they had to alter their speech rate, so they didn't have to accommodate for people. And the good thing is there is less cognitive load for the raters, for the test takers, because it was fairly straightforward. Initially, when we wanted to go fully online, we wanted to use breakout rooms. So if you're familiar with Zoom, we actually used WebEx. Our university used WebEx. We wanted to use breakout rooms to simulate the two testing rooms coming together as one. But that proved when we piloted the online assessment, fully online assessment, that was too confusing for raters and students. So there's less cognitive load in this hybrid format. Although so far I've been talking about all the great things that happened during the hybrid assessment, we did encounter complications. One, obviously, only on-campus students can take the EPTOC, right? So while pre-pandemic, this was still the same thing. We didn't allow people who are not on campus to take the test, obviously, because we were face-to-face. But some students may have complained stating that, well, you're using laptops anyway, why don't you just go fully online? So that was complication. If you recall, in the individual interview task, we used pictures. So when we showed students our pictures on the laptop, there was glare because it was laminated. So some students have said, well, I can't really see that image clearly, so I'm going to try to answer your questions as best as I can. So that was another challenge. Finally, in relation to the speaking test, so in a speaking test, when you have a paired discussion task, we are trying to assess what we call interactional competence. In essence, that is your ability to interact appropriately with another person, right? So since we took out the test taker pair talk and paired them with a rater, are we assessing all features of interactional competence? So interactional competence, the way that we assess interactional competence is that students are initiating and expanding on own ideas. They are connecting on own ideas to a partner's ideas, expanding on a partner's ideas, making relevant comments, taking turns appropriately, disagreeing politely. The problem is some of these interactional competence features, they might not be able to show it because the rater isn't actually supposed to be talking too much. They want to make sure that the test taker speaks as much as they can. So are we really assessing all features of interactional competence? That's the issue with changing the task a little bit to accommodate this hybrid assessment. So some lessons that we learned that I'd like to share to you today is that going back to that idea of thinking outside the box. The pandemic definitely presented many challenges, but it is our obligation as, well, my obligation as a language tester, language assessment specialist, to think about how the pandemic would impact our test administration, how that would impact positively or negatively our test takers. So we used WebEx, but in a hybrid format, thinking that we need to ensure one, safe testing environment. We need to consider rater workload. Our raters are paid to rate, but still money isn't everything. We need to make sure that they are also safe. They feel safe rating students. And when we adapt a test, when you adapt a test for a certain goal, you need to include your raters in that test adaptation process. Their feedback is very important because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to administer the test, right? The second point is, I don't know if anyone's familiar with this platform. It's called Slack, and it's essentially a private chat room. So you can make multiple chat rooms in there. And since the test administrator, that is me as the assistant coordinator, and the thank you, Berbia, will be done soon. So Slack, we use Slack to communicate because we were in different buildings. So I was in a different building, my raters were in different buildings. So I need a communication platform. We didn't use text because privacy is a big thing here. So I don't even know some of my friends' phone numbers. So we use Slack as our main communication platform, which proved to be really good. Communication was very smooth. If there was a laptop problem, I was there quickly to address the problem. And then we didn't have a lot of new raters to train, so that was a plus. And then the most important thing is, because this is the pandemic, we do not want to forgo a safe testing environment. If we invite test takers in breakout rooms, right? If you're familiar with breakout rooms, they can be very confusing. That could be confusing for our raters. And if we go on fully online, it requires test takers laptops. We do not let test takers to touch laptops. And then the English placement test, although it's not like IELTS, TOEFL, IBT, which you pay a lot of money for. Our students don't pay for the actual test. They only pay if they need to take a course. It's still a high stress situation, right? And if you're stressed with an assessment and you have to deal with all sorts of online stuff, it adds another layer of confusion. So doing a hybrid assessment is what we thought of the best way to go about it. So in conclusion, despite the complications that we encountered, if you can call them conclusions, we were really happy with what came out of it. We maintained a relatively valid assessment during a challenging situation, and students and raters informally told us that they overall seemed to have a good experience with the hybrid assessment. So these are the references, and that is the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Ananda. Wow, what Ananda has just shared with us clearly pictures the need of maximum preparation towards fully online assessment. I now see in the chat box, there are 2 questions for the speakers. Let me read it. The first one is for Pak Jati. This is from Eka Sugeng Aryadi from Pasuruan. He asked this way: how do you ensure us that your students' performance increases? And okay, I invite Pak Jati to respond to the question, please.
Thank you, Puria. I'll try to answer that. Before I answer that, I'm going to mention that my experience is for I'm teaching in undergraduate, non-English department. So what I said, maybe it's not really appropriate for in any context. Yeah, just put that in a context. When I use technology, when I use AI with my students, I always discuss with my students after they're using it. How do you feel about that? Do you find it useful? If not, then we talk about that. If they're comfortable talking to me, then I will not continue using the AI, but I always check with my student. How do you feel? Are you happy with that? Do you have the signal? Do you have the equipment at home? Or do you have to go somewhere? So I discuss things with my students. It's not all of my students having a good gadget, no. Or good connection, no. So we discuss and give alternative on that. Then I always ask, do you find it useful? If yes, why? If no, why? So I I talk to my students using 3 types of questions. So how do you feel? Feeling using the technology, whether they're comfortable or not comfortable, whether that's useful or not useful according to them. And then do they get really benefit or help with the tools? Yeah, that's my basic question. I'm not measuring the progress of my students because I'm teaching only a semester. So very difficult for me to see the progress. I see them as only as 1 semester. It's mata kuliah umum MKU. Yeah, so that's my setting. Hopefully answering the questions, but indirectly. Thank you, Ibu Ria.
Thank you, Pak Jati. So in this case, we need to keep checking, right, the progress of our students in using the applications. Thank you. Now, this is another question from Samsina from State Institute of Islamic Studies of Bone. This is directed to Ibu Cecilia. Her question is hybrid learning is about hybrid learning term. How the history of emergence of the term of hybrid learning and who invented the term in its references. And then she explained a little bit because she has looked about it in journals and just very few information. So it would be very kind enough if Ibu Cecilia would respond to this question. The time is yours, Ibu Cecilia.
Okay, well, thank you, Ibu Ria. Well, to Pak Samsinar, it's the same with you. I haven't, I have searched for who introduced the term for the first time, but up to now I haven't got the name, but well, let me, maybe the others can help, but let me explain a little bit, because you also mentioned about blended learning, because as I have told you that in my context, I haven't really, we haven't implemented the hybrid learning. For hybrid learning, the definition is actually there are students who participate in the classroom and there are who join the class via online. So that's the difference between hybrid and blended. While blended, I think some of the sessions are delivered through online learning and some sessions are delivered through face-to-face learning. So for the blended learning, all students are present, at the same learning context. So if they are online, all of them are online. If they are face-to-face, they are all face-to-face. While for the hybrid learning, so there are some students who join the session online, via online, and there are some students who join the session in class, so face-to-face. So that's the difference, but who invented the term for the first time? I haven't got the information. Maybe Pak Jati or Ibu Ananda can help me about this, but so far I have searched the journals and etc., and I haven't got the name. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ibu Cecilia. Is there any information from Pak Jati or Ananda about the case? Silakan.
I put the link in the chat box. You can read on your own. It's a brief history of hybrid. Have a look at that. Click and have a look at that. It's a little bit complex right now, the history, because of the quick of the technology and so on and so on. So that might be useful, giving the idea why hybrid learning is there. The history of online and hybrid schools. So I use that as a reference when I give a talk.
Thank you, Pak Jati. Thank you, Pak Jati. Ananda, do you have any share on the same question?
Can you say the question again, ma'am? I think the connection.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. So Samsina was asking about the use of the term hybrid learning and its emergence, and who will invented the term, and if you have some ideas of references.
I'm not familiar with that term, but
okay.
we have an instructional technology department here, and they have a lot of, I know they have workshops about hybrid versus blended learning, but in my experience here, hybrid learning is more like blended learning, like Ibu Cecilia's definition, where some of us are online and then some of us are face-to-face. That's what hybrid learning is, I feel like, is here.
Yeah, maybe I can say a little bit about hybrid from my point of view. Hybrid learning, especially in Indonesia, because the lecturer and the teacher, they have to go to school. Yeah, but the student, some, they cannot, the government cannot really force the students to go to school because of the health reason. So that's a kind of situation that we have. If we are employed by the government or in any institution, then you have to go to the office or you have to go to the schools. But we have a client, our client are students, and that parent might say, no, I don't want my students to go to a school. So hybrid is a kind of compromise type of need. Some people say that online is better. Some people say face-to-face is better. You know, I think that's the issue at the moment. Maybe I'm wrong, not necessarily correct. That's the way I see it. Back to you, Puria. Thank you.
Yeah, it's still debatable though, depending on the context, on our context. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Here's another question from Arwin. There is no mention of institution. The question is, do you think hybrid learning can be more effective to improve students' engagements more than blended learning? So nobody is tentative, but I'm not sure if Ibu Cecilia would share her response, or Pak Jati, quite welcome to do so.
Yeah, Pak Jati, silakan. I think you can answer the question first.
No, not really, but from my experience doing hybrid, it's student engagement. I'm looking at not the students, but the teacher. When I do it hybrid, it's very difficult for the teacher. I have 20 students in my class, and then I have camera. They are staying at home. Who should I pay attention? The screen on the camera tracker that they track my movement, or the student inside the class. Then, we have to find out what's the student feel inside the class and what student feel at home, because they maybe got 25 of my attention, or maybe 10, or maybe none. You know, it's also confusing for me when people asking me, students asking me questions, how to respond. Do I have to look at the camera? Do I have to repeat the question from the students following at home and then repeat it for my class? When my class asking questions, the sound is not that loud, so I have to repeat the, things like that happen. It looks so good when it's on paper. When you're in it, signal, camera, lighting, your voice, your movement is limited, and so on and so on. So if we are talking about student engagement, we need to ask a few questions to the student who has been through a hybrid, both inside the class and both outside the class. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Jati. Ibu Cecilia, do you have any idea?
Yeah, I think I agree with Pak Jati. So the problem with the hybrid is that we have two audience, and we always have to think, I think how to respond so that our response can be received well by both audience. So blended learning, it doesn't mean that blended learning is easier, but the problem with hybrid learning is that there are two audience. So it is, I think the teachers has to really think about this seriously. I think,
yeah. So we need to seriously consider whether what we are doing is really blended or hybrid, or maybe something else. While waiting for a direct question, let me read it again. This is one question For Ibu Ananda from Pak Harun, what kind of marking model the raters use? Is it a holistic or analytic? And with that changing nature of speaking tests from one-to-one environment to hybrid one. Would you like to respond that, Ananda? Thank you.
Sure. I actually shared a link to our rating scale that we use. And it's an analytic scale, as you can see. It's quite detailed. We have the components fluency, interactional competence, comprehensibility and pronunciation, and grammar and vocabulary. And we have 4 different levels of low pass, low not pass, low pass, and high pass. And basically, we use the exact same rating scale for the pre-pandemic and during the pandemic test administration. And as I've said, the problem with the hybrid assessment is that with the interactional competence component, which is the second column, we couldn't really rate all of the features that were included in that component because the test taker is only talking to the rater and the rater doesn't talk a lot. So there's it's more one-sided interaction really. So we use the same scale, but when we trained the raters for the hybrid assessment, we told them that we're going to adapt our operationalization of interactional competence a little bit. So that's my answer.
Yeah. What Ananda has just told us again shows some kind of complex preparation before such a test is implemented. Well, is there any raising hand? Not yet. Now, this is another question from Pak Nirwanto, Universitas Muhammad Gresik, addressed to Ibu Cecilia. Which one do you think is more effective in assessing development vocabulary knowledge? Dynamic assessment or non-dynamic assessment? Ibu Cecilia, would you like to respond, please? Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Pak Nirwanto, for the question. Well, I think if you use dynamic assessment, the advantage is that you can provide mediation really needed immediately. So if you know that your student has problem with something, then you can provide it immediately. While at the non-dynamic assessment, maybe you will provide like delayed mediation. So well, I think both can be effective, depends on the purpose. If you look for immediate feedback for the learning process, then using the dynamic assessment will really answer your question. But if you only need information whether students have understood, have already known the meaning of the new vocabulary, then using non-dynamic assessment would also be effective. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, Ibu Cecilia. There is another question from Elsas, Universitas Negeri Makassar. Is there any effective assessment in blended learning? As we concern that the face-to-face meeting has been implemented, it means that all of the students should participate in online and offline class. So Elsa is asking about the effectiveness of the assessment in blended learning. Probably Pak Jati would like to respond to this question.
I'm looking at assessment is for more assessment for learning, not assessment in measuring the students' progress, students' result, and so on. So I'm working on more on assessment for learning during the students' learning. So I don't think that I got the answer to that question, though. Because in my setting, I I teach only a semester. Then the next semester I got another students. So to look at the long journey, I think Pushi still got more experience compared to me. Thank you.
Yeah, understood. Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you for the response. Ibu Cecilia, do you have any response to the question? Or Ananda, would you like to respond to that question? We got.
No, I think Ibu Cecilia was talking, but she was
but
muted.
muted.
Oh, I see.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I forgot to unmute the speaker.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. As Pak Jati has explained, yeah, that there are different kinds of assessment: assessment for learning, assessment of learning. Yeah. So which one is effective for blended learning? Of course, it depends on the purpose. Yeah, the purpose. But as I have already explained, yeah, nowadays it is really emphasized that assessment for learning is really important. So in blended learning, it's also the same. Yeah, that teachers is really advised not to assess student progress only at the end of the course. Yeah, but during the course itself, it's very important to assess your students' progress. Yeah, that's I think one thing that I want to emphasize here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Cecilia. There is one more question. This may be the last question before we proceed to the next session. From Wisran, IAIN Palopo. What about the government regulation that supports hybrid learning? Is it possible? Yeah, so probably this Wisran would like to ask the implementation, the concrete implementation. Ananda, would you like to respond to this?
I'm not so sure about the current Indonesian government regulations. I'm very out of touch.
Yes.
So maybe I'm not the best person to answer that. Yeah.
Okay, understood. Pak Jati, would you have any response?
I don't think that there is a regulation yet about that, for sure. But regulation from my campus, this is just a give illustration.
Yeah.
That we have to start going to campus, then we apply that hybrid. And at the moment, we are ITP asking every single lecture to have a plan on hybrid. What it's look like, how many hours are you going to be on campus, what equipment do you need to run your class if that's hybrid. So I think the campus is just in the step of preparing that, and I'm not sure about the government. I don't think that's ready with the support, especially support for the equipment, because it's very expensive. Expensive. You cannot have a hybrid just from a regular classroom because of the sound, because of the lighting. So my campus right now is providing some, I think 2 or 3 blocks with equipment, with better equipment, better seating arrangement, better lighting, and so on. Yeah, that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Jati. So I think it depends on the university system. Each university has its own, mechanism in terms of implementing this hybrid learning. Okay. Thank you so much for the questions. And there is no raising hand yet. So now I'm giving it back. Oh, still there is one more. Okay, let me see. The question is from Pak Ilham Alimuddin is raising hand. Welcome, Pak Ilham. If you have questions, you can raise.
Yes.
You can direct your questions to any speaker. The time is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Ibu Ria. This is a really great opportunity to participate in this kind of webinar. Yeah, especially the topic is very needed in any English assessment environment. Probably I won't direct this to any of those 3, but anyone who can address my problems. Actually, I'm not referring only to English class environment. in general, I'm actually not an English docent, lecturer. I am an engineering, but sometimes I also focus on English classroom environment. When I give exam to students, the problem is really like how we monitor the what do you call that, that they are doing it themselves. I mean, although we use 2 cameras, 2 devices, etc. There are still students that are looking at the possibility of cheating. I mean, so when I got the answers from students, especially in writing, I mean, not in terms of direct interview or direct interaction, like I interview them or something, I rely on the written answers. Some of them are still like, copying, or some part of the answers are copied from somewhere else, her friends, his friends, something like that. So my question is there any specific techniques that we can, reduce this kind of cheating in this classroom assessment, maybe especially for English teaching classrooms? That's my questions, Ibu Ibu Moderator. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to see some of my friends here, Ibu Mila, Ibu Annie, and others, Ibu Ria especially. Thank you for the opportunity. I return back to you, Ibu.
Ma'am Ria, you are muted.
Thank you so much, Pak Ilham, for the direct question. I believe Pak Jati can answer this question. Thank you.
I think you are wrong, Ibu. No.
Oh, well,
okay, I'm going to give an illustration what happened to our campus, also to my campus. It's been 2 years during the pandemic, with the ujian tengah semester and also ujian akhir semester. We do it online using technology that they can lock the screen, so they cannot move to other page. But if they got 2 or 4 laptops, they can open the other 2. Yeah, so there is a possibility of that. And we are not applying a camera, because the first one we tried to do that, a lot of students complained because they are living in the low bandwidth area. Yeah, but locking the screen, what we learned, it's not really answering about cheating. Second year, there is a rumor, maybe that's correct, maybe it's not correct, I'm not sure, but the rumor is very loud. The students, the first semester student will ask kakak kelas to sit next to him or to her and to answer the mid-test and final test. There is a rumor. I'm not saying that's happening or not. We'll try to investigate that. That's a big rumor in our campus. So, Pak Ilham, that's my answer.
Thank you, Pak Gumiwang. At least I have some friends in trying to assess that.
Can I add something, Ibu Ria?
Oh, yes. Welcome, Bu. Welcome, Bu.
Well, Pak Ilham, maybe another thing that you can use is to apply the time constraint, Pak, in doing the work. Yeah, so by allowing a particular time, then it is difficult for them. I mean, to cheat, to ask friends. Yeah, so that's another thing. And I think we should also, as I have already told you, use other forms of assessment. So don't only depends on that one particular task. Yeah, you need also to do some formative assessment, in class assessment and everything, so that if we know their answers during the class session, and then they produce something which is very outstanding in their written work, then we can follow up further. I think if you feel that this is not his or her real work, then we can maybe do a kind of short interview or something like that. I think maybe that can help you. Thank you.
Yeah, so what Ibu Cecilia said.
Can I respond quickly? Time, it's very good. But when we try it, 100% fail. In our situation, we give a time, 300 students taking the same test.
Oh,
and then the server crash, doesn't work. So right now we are doing, if you have 90-minute time, then we should have give an extra time so that the server will not crash and everybody can submit their work. Yeah. So again, back in our situation in Bandung and in Jakarta and in Makassar could be different. Yeah. But in theory, time, yes. But when you're dealing with more than 3,000 or 4,000 students doing the same test, accessing the same server, that might be a problem. I think
in Pak Jati context, it's an MKU subjects, yeah. In my context, only 20 students, 30 students. So
okay.
If I may add a little bit, just to clarify. Actually, the question is referring to like final exam, like ujian final. We do some other assessments, like I refer to some practical works or others that I can assess that students. But the thing that I cannot really see how their own performance, I want to see how their own competence in grabbing my materials. That is what I face really. I mean, it's so difficult sometimes to make sure that what the students written for the response is actually from them. That's basically what I want to refer to. Thank you everyone for mentioning that.
I think I could add something. If it's about final exams, I think in the beginning there should be highlighting of the value of originality, and at the very beginning of the class, make sure that the materials taught emphasizes the value of originality. And when we talk about marking final exams, we include in the rubric a very large percentage for authenticity and originality. So it's like, if it's out of 100 points, maybe you could, to make sure that they don't copy, that they don't cheat, they don't plagiarize any other people's work, maybe out of 160. So if they already get 0 on that, what are they going to get? They're going to get a C, D. So maybe that's a way to kind of trick students to make sure that they aim for originality in their work, in their final exam. At least that's what we try to do here. Trick the students.
Yeah. So thank you, Ananda. So I think it's very important for us to compare our students' works from the very beginning, right? It's not simply focusing on the last one. Thank you. Unfortunately, I skipped one question. This is from Pak Dedi from Halu Uleo. And this is for Pak Jati. Could you share some tips or strategies to encourage students' participation in an online assessment, especially those who are reluctant to work unless they see the reward, of doing so? Is there any grade? Is there any point? Pak Jati, would you like to respond? Thank you.
Yeah. Again, my setting is more on assessment for learning. I always give rubric to my students. That's one thing. I always accompany them working with AI. So who give feedback is not me, it's the AI giving feedback to them. They can do it on their own time, their own pace, and so on. I don't give reward. Usually, I give a very little reward. Just say, are you happy with the result? If you're not happy, go to ProWriting 8. When you check ProWriting 8, you got B. Are you happy with that? If you're happy with that, then submit it to me. If you are not happy, talk to your friend in a Padlet or go again to the AI and then write it. So I give the encouragement to work on their own, to work with their peers, and I give them tools to play with in a quotation mark. Again, because my setting, they are engineers, they are not English, an English department, it's not an English subject. I cannot really force them that English is it's a must, it's a kind of mata kuliah umum, so they might not like it. So that's the way I handle my class. I'm sorry, Pak Dedi, your setting is different, I think. But think about that. A peer assessment, I think is important. Giving a tools, resources to the students so that they can reflect. That's the idea. Back to you, Puria. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pak Jati. So for everyone, thank you so much for all the questions coming in. Unfortunately, it's now over time, so I return the session to Ibu Inaya.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Ria. Ladies and gentlemen, for the enlightening discussion once again, thank you very much for all speakers and Dr. Anda Ria Jubhari, MA, PhD as moderator. And for all participants, we'd like to inform you to fill in the attendance link in the chat box. And ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to present certificate presentation to all speakers and closing ceremony by Head of English Literature Study Program, Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Universitas Hasanuddin. Dr. Anda Nasmila M. Hum, PhD, time is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Well, today we have listened to and we have witnessed 3 insightful presentations from 3 inspiring speakers. I couldn't thank you enough for everything. I think everyone who's involved in this seminar and those participants especially have been learning so much from this very moment. And I would like now to present the certificate to the 3 speakers. And I would like to start with Ibu Cecilia Setiawati Halimi, PhD. This is your certificate, Ibu. Terima kasih. The second one is to Bapak Dr. Gumawang Jati, MA. Thank you so much indeed. Okay, and then the third one is to Ananda Muhammad SS, MA, TESOL. Congratulations and good luck with your study. This is a certificate to remember that you are belonging to English department and you are coming back.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, so after attending all the sessions today, allow me to officially declare this seminar closed by reciting Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much.
See you again later.
Gentlemen,
Next webinar.
on behalf of the host and committee, we'd like to extend once for deep appreciation for your support and participation. Once again, thank you and see you in the 9 Network National Seminar for the next year. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Jati, Bu Cecilia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Memi.
Gloria, salam dari Kusik.
Thank you.
Selivia, good job.
Thank you, Maria.
Saya juga izin live, Ibu Eni. Terima kasih.